track and field team because you're competing against the guy. It was the girls' team you signed up.
Well, some may ask out there, isn't that overreaction for states that pass laws? I'll tell you why the states have to pass laws, because the federal Civil Rights Code does protect against so-called discrimination based on sex. And people who have a very far-out jurisprudential and legal philosophy have convinced a handful of federal judges over the years to redefine sex as not
like I'll probably be leaving these chains on for
whatever you think it is as a transgender person. So as a result of that, states are going, okay, well, here's this movement again. We're going to have to be proactive.
Oh, yeah. I just don't like
people who have common sense on this issue, Janet, didn't invent this conflict. The conflict became a result of a movement,
I don't like having to go this
and
slow
legal
with
movement to
I can only do
force
about
the
25.
issue.
Cars can only do about
States have
25 miles
responded.
an hour
We'll see where it goes.
with chains on.
To that end, we talk about stories in
Or they'll,
2020, so
run the chains
some of these
into
stories have
their
fallen
tires.
off the radar because A, the impeachment pushed off. Now, the rocket attack from Iran, the death of Soleimani, have pushed
Oh yeah,
the
these
picture off the front
are
pages.
pretty new
But
tires.
when things get back
so-
to normal, whatever that looks like in Washington,
Yeah,
D.C.,
the brand new ones I just bought are on the back, but these are also
really is a hot
pretty new
topic
up
is going to be either the Equality Act or this poison pill known as Fairness for All. We have to see whether or not that gets any legs legislatively.
Nice to
and starts
see
walking around the hill.
DOT up there.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to address sports, but I think we may be coming up to a sports story. I'll wait a couple minutes to talk about unless you want me to address it now, because I'm thinking about fairness in sports. And I'm also thinking about
The Packers and the Seahawks, but I digress.
No. Look, I'm a Packers fan, born and bred until I die. However, I'm talking about baseball.
Market, Haven,
Baseball in our town.
next slide.
Baseball in Washington, D.C., 2000.
You have to go back to the October. Hey, that's the October surprise, right?
Yeah.
The Washington Nationals.
Okay, right, now, we're talking about sports.
Yes, go
Washington
ahead.
Nationals, that was really, being so close
Has
to
a
it,
back door
you and I were
that's like,
jubilant because we were both cheering for the
Looks like
Nats.
this car in front of us. This
However,
Honda
there are these guys and girls, ladies, I don't know, called odds makers, okay? I don't know if they're all in Las Vegas or not, but the odds makers get around, sit around in some room somewhere, smoke-filled room, and they say, okay, here are the odds for the next World Series. I don't know how they do it, but guess where the Nats are on that list of odds makers?
It's a slightly open. It's not like flopping open. It's not
They were
dangerous.
last year, but now they're number 5. Guess who number 1 is?
back there.
No. Well, you can't. If it's a little baby, you can't see.
New York Yankees.
There's only a baby in
That's
there,
an easy
but
odds
it's not
making, okay?
flopping open.
But number 2 is the Astros, who the Nats
It
beat
looks
in the
like
World
they're
Series.
just got dispatched on a
I
run.
figured this out.
right,
They must be
fire
doing
department.
We're doing sports stories.
They're
Okay,
manning
so I'm gonna
their,
give you a sports story.
fire.
University of Georgia quarterback Jack
manning
Fromm. He helped lead his team to a 12-2 record, and he has such an attitude about his faith. I want to point him out a little bit. He threw 2 touchdowns and 250 yards on New Year's Day for a 24-16 Sugar Bowl victory over Baylor. And he was asked by a reporter from ESPN, a woman by the name of Holly Rowe, about the team's mindset in light of several teammates who skipped the game as they were getting ready for the NFL draft. So Fromm told the reporter from ESPN that it was a chance for younger players to step up. And he said this, we have a ton of young guys. This is their opportunity. They're ready to go out and play. They're really going to play great.
Time I've ever
And his
driven a vehicle
optimism
with
impressed
chains.
Rowe, who
Where
called
the
him,
chains
quote,
have
the
actually
world's
stayed on.
most positive person. And she asked him, sir, what makes you such a positive person? And he said, and I quote, the Holy Spirit in me.
Now the speed limit on this,
The most godly
speed limit on
life I
this,
can do. I'm trying to influence
under
others and
ideal
hope they can see
conditions is
Christ in me.
35. Well, I'm only doing around 20.
Start to cry. And she also
okay.
Yeah, you can't do any much
and
more
his
than that with
answer was
chains on
this
it.
great ball player from Georgia.
Okay,
Done pretty well.
now we turn
Lead people
south.
to Jesus and hopefully shed the light in their eyes, he said. And so this woman tweeted out on Twitter, for the new year, let's all be shining lights in this world like from. Honestly, brought me to tears today with his positive, lovely spirit.
DOT.
Many blessings to this young man.
There's only got
Georgia